This video will give you a quick overview of my curriculum, Mapping the World with Art. You can purchase it as a paperback, either on my website or on Amazon, or you can purchase it as a digital download on my site. And then you can decide how much of the book you want to print out. You can read some of it off the screen and print out worksheets, or you can print the whole thing out. It's up to you. Additionally, you may want to have a copy of the video demonstrations of the drawing lessons that are in the book. The lessons are printed in the book, and you don't really need these, but most people find that it's very helpful to see a video demonstration of these instructions. They do come on DVDs you can purchase on my site or on Amazon, but you can also stream them from my site. If you buy the digital e-course, then you'll automatically get access to these on my site. If you purchase the book from my site, you additionally get a CD with the book on the CD. So you have both a paperback and you have a digital copy, so you can print out game parts, things like that. If you purchase the paperback on Amazon and therefore don't have a CD, I do have a page on my website that gives you the downloads you need for the game parts. You won't get the instructions, but you'll get the actual printables. The instructions are in the book. You'll have those, but there is a link to a file where you can actually get the worksheets and things that you need to print. There are 3 sections to the curriculum. The first is readings, and there's 30 lessons, so you get 30 readings, and each reading is just 1 page front and back. And the readings give you the history of maps and of cartography, map making. So we start with the very earliest maps, work our way forward with the Greeks, and we see how people learned about the world when they came up with the idea of putting imaginary lines onto the world. We meet famous map makers, and as we go forward in time, we gradually cover the world. It sort of naturally unfolds in the story that we focus on a particular part of the world. So then you have the drawing lesson section, and the drawing lessons go with the reading. So map drawing 1, you would read lesson 1 and then you would do the map that goes with that reading. First one you start out with is Mesopotamia. So I give you the instructions step by step. Here's drawing 2, the Nile River, and there are step-by-step instructions you can follow, and there's the written instructions here so that you can complete the map even without a video, although most people really like the video. Some of them are very easy, some of them are a little more complicated. In this one you use your hand to start out, so I guess people really like to see me demonstrate that in the video. But still, it gives you all the steps that you need to complete the map, and it tells you what to label, although you're welcome to add as much as you'd like. You can add rivers, you can add more cities, whatever you want to add, you can always add more. So these are the drawing lessons, and oftentimes I use some funny things, like here you can see, how in the world do you remember Britain? It's a very complicated shape, so I break it down into a rooster head and a funny little animal and a penguin and a penguin chick and a penguin egg, and we kind of stack them all together. So here in Newfoundland is a slice of pizza with some bites out of it. And the large islands in the Caribbean I have as a little vacuum cleaner fish, another little goofy fish trying to eat a cookie. And making things into cartoons, I find it's extremely helpful to me to remember them, so I figure if it helps me, it has to help the students also. Here is, you imagine Alaska as a guy with a big nose and a beard looking at kind of an elephant-like character. And of course, in your final drawing, you don't draw the cartoons. That's just how you remember. Some of the lessons are broken up. For this one we have 29A, 29B, 29C, so they're real short little drawings. So sometimes the lessons have sub-lessons inside of them. And then the last part is the activity section. And again, they'll be labeled 1A, 1B, 1C. So all the activities that go with reading 1 and drawing 1 will be labeled as 1. And then you can choose which ones you feel are worth your time, which ones your students will be interested in. For example, I have some extra art projects. This one, they make a Polynesian style map of a room. So if you're trying to expand the curriculum to be a full year, definitely do all the extras. They are very fun to do, but if you're really short on time, you may have to cut some of them. So then there's activity idea 2, 3A, 3B, 3C. So all of these activities will go with reading 3 and drawing lesson 3. We do a lot with the tools like protractor and compass. Then for some drawings, I'll give a template that you can use to make a painted drawing. I'll recommend that you use maybe watercolor and colored pencil. Here was one done with a wash. I give you instructions how to use crayon and pencil. Sometimes I'll suggest that you work on like a parchment type paper with pencil and make something that looks kind of antique. And there's a couple drawing ideas where you can use acrylic paint and make it look like a physical map. There's also some craft ideas, like for example here we've got you make a star chart, you puncture little holes for the stars, and in this one you make a navigational quadrant. I've got a lot about navigation, how ancient peoples used the stars to navigate and how they figured out latitude. Longitude was very difficult, there's a whole lesson on that. So there will be some craft projects. Here's a star clock that you can make. Now, I do have instructions. This is Polaris. This is for people in the Northern Hemisphere. I do have some instructions if you live in the Southern Hemisphere, some adaptations you can use. Of course, that's much more difficult, finding the Southern Cross. There's also some games in here. This is a map game about a Portolan map that shows you how they navigate it. I explain how they navigate, and you move little ships around on these navigational lines. And I also have, I'll turn it this way so you can see this one. I have pages that you print out that act as review guides. So in this review worksheet, you're asked to remember this drawing, fill in the Nile. In this drawing, all the places where there's dotted lines is where you need to fill in what you remember from past drawings. So gradually, as you draw more parts of the world, you're able to assemble them into a larger map. So this one is made up of what you've learned in a lot of different places. There's another game. There's a little paper ship to cut out if you'd like to do that kind of project. There's a draw a compass rose project, which is a little more towards the artsy end of things. And here's a page you could print out. And I think I've got a student version printed on the back of this. There we go, right there. There's a student that drew the Caribbean and added their own compass rose and a parrot and a ship. And some of the kids really like to add sea monsters. And there are pieces you can cut out to make a game. This game is about the Spice Islands, and you move little ships around and navigate your way around the Spice Islands using these navigational lines. I try to simulate old maps as much as I can. And then there's quiz cards that go with it, get some extra info in there. And there's another game, some really nice group games. This is one where you try to sculpt these parts of the world. Kids think that's pretty funny. And some more review. There's a globe you can put together. It's an octagon shape, but it shows you about projections. I have a lot about the different types of projections. So there's many ways of creating a 3D map of the world other than the sphere. And then, of course, the worksheets get more and more complicated. And this one, I asked them to draw quite a bit. It's almost a final exam. Another game. And then, oh, here's the one I showed you before, where I have you make that kind of a map. And then there's a final map project. Here's some samples. This will depend on the age and interest of your students. There's some patterns you can use, different sizes and different amounts of information. You can have the student try to just simply draw a map from scratch with nothing but blank paper. You can do that. Or you may give them some guidelines, things they recognize from their lessons. And there's a way to do it with minimal information, more information. So you want the kids to have a good time and really feel good about their map, not to get too frustrated. If a blank page is too daunting, use the templates. And then the back here shows there's even a cookie project where you make a giant edible map of Africa. So you can see that there's a very wide variety of extra projects you can choose from. It works best if you do use it in its sequence and not try to pull out a drawing here and there. Although I have had people simply like pull out Africa and just do that. You can do that, but it works best if you kind of go from 1 to 30. And again, you can do it very quickly in just a semester and skip a lot of the activities, or you can take your time and take all year. If you have kind of a once a week format, it's pretty much a year of work. There's also a YouTube playlist that goes with this, which gives you some free supplemental videos to use at your discretion.